And I thought to myself, do I ever really plan to say anything negative about the Chinese Communist Party? I mean, they have such a great track record. What's going on, YouTube? Today we are going to jump into the weird, dark, and mysterious world of channel sponsors, which have been getting a bit of a bad rap recently, from things such as established titles to FTX. They're really on a bad track record right now. But as a small YouTube creator who has a gaming channel that does receive channel sponsorship offers, I thought I would go into my kind of personal experience with channel sponsors, as well as what was the first channel sponsor I received. How did it go? How many channel sponsors do I get offered? Why do I decline some of them? And overall, what is the overall experience as a small-time content creator who is trying to get channel sponsors that aren't necessarily for ridiculous items and or services? And also, potentially too, we'll talk about how much other people generally make with channel sponsors, if you've ever been curious, for those Raid Shadow Legends ads that pop up on 90% of your famous content creators' web pages. How much do they probably get paid? We'll talk about all that and more in today's video. Starting us off, let us talk about one of the more common questions when it comes to channel sponsors, and that's, when did they come around? I imagine it wasn't you upload your first video and they're like, bam, in your inbox, ready to go. So when around did I get my first channel sponsor? And that was around 5,000 subscribers. However, this was also the first month where I had passed over 100,000 monthly views on my gaming channel. So I would actually attribute it more to the total monthly views versus the actual total subscriber count, because from a perspective of someone who's trying to get you to endorse a product, they care more about how many people are going to watch the video with their product in it, not necessarily how many total subscribers that you have. And I could already hear you clamoring, what was this first offer? And the first offer was one that was declined. Not to be anticlimactic, because they wanted me to peddle a service essentially where you could go and you could buy MMO currencies, MMO items, as well as other MMO services. Now, this was across many MMOs, including the one that I play, which is the Elder Scrolls Online, which on its surface might seem harmless. However, you also don't want your name and reputation attached to a website that's already doing things against really the rules of every single MMO. Plus two, what's the guarantee that says that these services are actually being completed when somebody pays for them? So really something that's hard to vet out. It's not something that you can get to your house, test it out, and be like, yeah, I like this. Or a mobile game that you could play and be like, all right, this is actually enjoyable. It's one of those things that you'd really have to take a leap of faith on. And even though they did offer a few $100s, which granted is a lot of money compared to, you know, how much YouTubers actually make, especially us smaller ones, really not something it's worth the risk of your audience for. And unfortunately, this was the general vibe that I dealt with for the longest time. That I would get probably 3 or 4 offers a month, but they were all for things that you really can never verify, such as websites where you buy and sell items, or maybe a collectibles website, but you really didn't know how name brand and secure something like that was. And even though they would usually say something along the lines of, oh, we'll send you something, or, you know, we'll prove that, you know, this is real by, you know, giving you this, it's like, how do you associate that with what your audience is going to get? Because it doesn't matter if they scam or don't scam you, if they then turn around and scam everybody else. You know, I would much rather not take the risk, especially when you're up and coming and you're trying to build an audience, and then you make guides on a game. You know, you don't want people to associate you with some sort of sellout who's just trying to milk them for money, when in reality, you know, you make YouTube videos for fun, you know, not to be some sort of business empire. So it was unfortunate that that was really the experience until I hit around 9,000 subscribers. At that point, I did start to receive more mainstream actual offers. People who were more willing to send products, let me review them, and actually send me a contract, as well as scripts and some other things that I could say, things that I couldn't say. And then that was where more of the negotiation began. More products that I would be comfortable, you know, selling to my audience, you know, depending on, you know, what I thought would be appropriate after physically holding and reviewing an item. The perfect example of these are mobile games. It's very straightforward, and that was my second ever channel sponsor, was a mobile game.
Now you might think to yourself, well, so generic, Jake. You pick a mobile game. That's who everyone does mobile games, and that's true. The first ever mobile game that I did was Bloodlines Heroes of Lithus, and actually a week after I did mine, Penguins or Moist Critical also did one for Bloodlines Hero of Lithus, and I'm sure we were paid differing amounts. Now, as part of that contract negotiation, I'm not allowed to tell you exactly how much money they paid me, but what I can do is actually something a little bit more interesting. I can actually give you a general estimate of how much YouTubers should make, or at least should be offering, when they make an actual YouTube channel sponsorship offer. So to peel back the curtain for you, let's talk about the two big numbers that YouTubers and YouTube gives to content creators, starting with RPM. RPM is your rate per milli. That's how much every 1,000 views you are going to get paid. It usually fluctuates between $4 and $6, but depending on your audience, their age, and their ability to be advertised to, this can be affected by geography. It can be affected by gender. It can be affected by the time of year. All sorts of things go into this number, but it can usually go as high as up to $14 to $20 per 1,000 viewers. Versus mine, which fluctuates between $4, $5, and $6. But there's another number with that, which is your cost per milli. That is how much money YouTube is charging to actually take these ads and put them on your channel. Why is this number helpful? Because that means, for example, if they're getting, it's usually about double that number. So usually, if I say I'm at $6, YouTube is charging $12 to advertisers, which means that could actually be a really good estimate for you if you're saying, hey, you want to be put on one video. Now, I project this video will get around 5,000 viewers. You could take that 12 and multiply it by your projected viewer count, which could be very helpful if you're a small-time content creator watching this, because realistically, they're going to offer you a number, and it's not going to be a number that's going to be very good, unfortunately. But if you know the math and the logistics behind it and how much YouTube is charging random advertisers, and they want you to say something specific to your audience and they want your name behind it, you should definitely at least be charging what YouTube is charging any advertiser. But that brings us right into contract negotiations. And this is probably the most interesting part if you're a content creator, because not only are they going to throw a lot of information at you, a lot of expectations, they're going to tell you about their product, might not even send it to you. You're going to have to make a determination. Are you going to take this advertisement? Are you going to start making drafts for them? What exactly is your plan as the content creator with this information that you have? And it can be a little daunting sometimes, but this is where we get to talk about the fun pieces, the contract pieces of this whole fiasco. And I don't want to blue ball you any longer. Let us talk about the experience with the you can never say anything badly about the Chinese Communist Party, which apparently, allegedly, according to them, is actually involved in any sort of contract that you make with any sort of Chinese-owned company. Now, the important thing to note about that is that pretty much the government owns all of the companies in China, so that they had informed me that it was just normal that this was in here. And it also said right below it, if you at any point down the road talk poorly about the CCP, that you would be basically liable to pay back all of the money that was given to you. And for context, this is for a mobile game. I had actually played the mobile game because that was the starting point. They were like, we want you to play the game. Let us know what you think. The game was actually pretty good. It's actually one of the more popular games on the App Store. You may yourself be playing it. But I played it. I liked it. I reached back out to them and said, yeah, it's a fun game. I could attach my name to this. I had fun with it. I could see myself playing this, in the future. So I will, we'll go to the next step. They then send me what's called an ad brief. And the ad brief is usually, these are all the points that we want you to hit in a video. This is kind of the order that you have to hit them. But if it works and it sounds good, you can have a little bit of variability, but you'd also feel free to add your own flair and whatnot. It'll usually be introduction, put in a call to action, secondary, say, hey, this is, what I liked about the game, give a brief overview, yada yada. And I noticed deep on the couple pages in, it said you can never talk poorly about the Chinese Communist Party. And I thought to myself, that's a little weird. I read below it and it said, if you ever do, at any point in the future, there was no cap to this, by the way. If I took this one ad sponsor and in 20 years China does something really silly, which they're kind of known for, I would have to give back all the money, essentially. So, and I had messaged them about this, and this apparently was just something that goes in all the contracts. It's just normal. The Chinese government owns all the businesses, so you can never talk bad about them. It has to be part of every contract negotiation. At that point, I realized two things. The first thing is that they followed that up with how much money they were willing to offer me. And let me tell you, so I work, a pretty decent full-time job. They were basically willing to offer me my month's salary for a few integrated video sections, as long as I would just agree to their terms. And then the second thing that I realized was this is why a lot of famous celebrities and basketball stars, to name a few, never really say anything bad about China. You'll constantly be watching TV. The news press will be asking them all these questions about, what's going on in America, what their thoughts are on this. If China's ever come up, they turn into astronomers and they're like, what's that up there? And I'm not really feeling too well, guys. We're gonna really cut this off here. So I realized that after watching and reading those contract negotiations, because let's be real, money talks. And if they're willing to offer me over $1,000, think about how much money they're willing to offer either a bigger YouTuber, an actual celebrity, or a sports star. At this point, also, I was reached out to by a talent manager who had actually been one of the individuals to send me sponsorship offers on behalf of other companies, some of which I had accepted, some of which I did not, for various reasons, and offered basically to bring me on as a talent, which feels very flattering as someone who works a traditional full-time job to be offered to be a talent under a company. So that was very flattering. However, I did not accept it at that time just because I didn't feel like, one, that I would be able to constantly make enough videos to constantly fit advertisers and sponsors on. And the real reason, though, too, is that it doesn't feel fair to my audience. I didn't want to try to turn my YouTube into a sort of business model. I wanted it to just be more of a fun, and I answer questions and guides, and we have fun little conversations about things on stream. And that's really what I even want this channel to be, even though it's not gaming related. My goal is not to milk the audience for money. And even though that might have been attached to sponsorships and things that I would have been okay with, I really like the idea of them reaching out to me as a specific individual and them saying, Jake, we watched your content. We really want you to review this product. If you like it, we would like to be a channel sponsor. I much prefer that demographic versus they reach out to a company who has tons of talent and they say, for every 1,000 views or clicks or blah, blah, blah onto our website, we'll pay each talent this. You can divvy it up between them and so on and so forth. Because it takes away the individuality that you have as a creator, and it also really turns you from a small-time, fun-loving hobbyist into basically what comes into an LLC or a business at that point. And for me, that's where YouTube is going to stay, as a hobby. I don't really want to turn my audience and everything into some sort of business model because, honestly, I love YouTube. I love interacting with you guys. I love the fact that I enjoy playing an MMO game and I've been able to make guides off of it and have been able to grow an audience off of that. And I think that's truly one of the best pieces about YouTube is that there's audiences for everyone. There's communities for everyone. Your goal shouldn't be to go out and monetize your community. It shouldn't be to go out and try to live off things and whatnot. But for me, I already get a lot of fulfillment too from my job as a social worker. I get to go out and help people through very crazy situations. I love doing that, and I don't plan to stop doing that anytime in the near future. But in the meantime, every single person who watches a video, every single person who likes, subscribes, comments, I will always watch and look and think to myself, wow, it's crazy to think that something as a hobby has gotten to this point. And if you're a YouTuber watching this, and even if you only have 50, 100 views, that's a lot of people. That's my graduating class size when I was in high school. So always, be grateful for what you have, but always continue to work forward and always do things that you want to do. If you want to start making content, if you want to start doing these different types of things, take the leap of faith. Really, what's the worst that could happen? You'll have fun in the meantime. You'll learn some new skills. I certainly didn't know how to video edit. Now I do to a lesser extent. I know slightly more than the average person on how to video edit. So it's a very fun ride. I would encourage you guys to do it. And I just encourage you, if you're not interested in doing that, well, supporting those content creators by subscribing and commenting does mean the world to us, and it will always mean the world to me. So thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.